Dirtle Magic. Hello and welcome back. You can follow our post on Twitter and Facebook at DirtleMTG to stay up to date on our latest videos and other posts, and you can join a more robust discussion about Casual Commander at our blog, TheDiceBag.blog. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this content to help the channel and the blog grow. Another way you can support the channel, though, is through our affiliate links in the description below. If you're looking for single sealed product or gaming accessories to protect all of that glory, please consider clicking the links in the description. Now, grab some spells, it's time to dirtle. Hello and welcome to the last video in the Anje Maid of Dishonor series. My opponents this game are Sephara, Sky's Blade, and Sythis, Harvest Hand. Sythis wins the die roll and goes first, playing a Selesnya Guildgate. My turn brings a mountain, and I play Blood Crypt tapped and pass. Sephara sees a Plains into play, followed by a Hope of Garapur. Sythis plays a Plains and casts their commander. My turn gives me Alhammarret's Archive, and I play a mountain. I cast Loyal Apprentice and pass with no attacks. Sephara has a Plains come into play on their turn. To the attacks, the Hope goes to deal 1 damage to Sythis, bringing them down to 39. On the enchantment player's turn, a Flickering Ward comes into play, guaranteeing protection to Sythis and triggering the commander. The chosen protection is black. They then cast Ethereal Armor, and the hand becomes a 4/5. The hand goes to 41 life. Alfaris comes into play. To the attacks, the hand retaliates against Sephara, dealing 4 commander damage and bringing them down to 36. My turn reveals Drawn Out Liberator of Macleod. I play a mountain and then cast Marauding Blight Priest. Going to attacks, I take the opportunity to damage the Harvest Hand, dealing 2. They go down to 39. Sephara has nothing but a Plains come into play, and it quickly moves over to the Harvest Hand. On their turn, they cast and Open the Armory and reveal 1 with Nature. It promptly gets cast, and Sythis triggers again. 1 with Nature enchants it, and they attack for 5 commander damage. Unable to block, I take 5 and go down to 35. A mountain starts off my turn, which I play, and then cast Anje from the command zone. She delivers a blood token, and I move to combat, gaining a free Thopter. On the attack, I swing the priest into the Harvest Hand, who goes down to 37. I pass. Sephara sees another Plains on their turn, and they cast Swords to Plowshares on the Harvest Hand. They respond by trying to return Flickering Ward to their hand. Sarafa says no with a Heliod's Intervention where X equals 1. Harvest Hand loses all of their enchantments and their commander, and Sephara passes. The Harvest Hand turn sees a Blossoming Sand come into play, and they gain 1 life. This is followed by a very dangerous Sigil of the Empty Throne, and they pass. My turn grants me Haunted Ridge, which I play and ponder my options. I cast Alhammarret's Archive and immediately go to attacks. I send 2 Thopters and Anje into the Harvest Hand, and the Priest back into Sephara. The damage is good, Sephara going down to 33, and the Harvest Hand to 36. Sephara's turn sees a Plains and a Mind's Eye, and they pass. The upkeep on the Harvest Hand turn sees Mind's Eye trigger for the first time. In the first main, a Blind Woodland is played and cracked. A Plains and a Forest are retrieved, and Sythis taps the rest of their mana and passes. Gifted Aetherborn gives us with its presence on our turn. I crack a blood token, discarding the Knight of the Ebon Legion, and drawing 2 cards thanks to the archive. I'm given Wormcoil Engine and Chaos Warp. I cast Viserys Ear and then quickly cast Chaos Warp on the Sigil of the Empty Throne, which warps into a Destiny Spinner. I go to attacks, and attack Sephara with a Thopter and the Blight Priest, and Sythis with the 2 Thopters and Anje. Damage is good, and Sephara goes down to 29, with the Harvest Hand down to 30. Sephara has a Plains enter the battlefield on their turn and goes straight to attacks. Hope is assigned to the Harvest Hand for 1, and is then sacrificed in the second main to keep them from casting non-creature spells until Sephara's next turn. Sephara then casts Wrath of God, and I'm sad. Everything dies. The Harvest Hand casts their commander from the command zone on their turn, and Selesnya Sanctuary comes into play, and they bounce a tapped forest. They pass afterward. My turn sees Sephara Springs. On the trigger for the eye, Sephara draws 1 card. I play Springs and then cast Wormcoil Engine, which I notice is now Phyrexian. I pass. Sephara's turn sees their commander enter the battlefield. Over to the Harvest Hand, and they cast Retether, bringing back all the auras from the graveyard and attaching them to their commander. They then cast Winds of Wrath, destroying all non-enchanted creatures. Wormcoil splits into 2 new tokens. Sythis launches an attack against Sephara, and they take 5, going down to 24 and up to 9 commander. Sythis then plays a basic land card tapped from their library, thanks to the 1 with Nature. My turn reveals a Null Priest of Oblivion. I cast it with Kicker, returning the Wormcoil Engine to the battlefield. On the attack, I swing the lifelink worm token into the Harvest Hand, dealing 3 damage and gaining 6 thanks to the archive. The Harvest Hand goes down to 26, and I go up to 41. Sephara's turn has a Plains come into play, followed by Entreat the Angels for 2 into the X, creating 2 4/4 Angel tokens. They pass. Sythis casts Dawn's Reflection on their turn, increasing their mana production on 1 land. Flickering Ward then makes its return to the stack, and Sythis eventually gains protection from white, which knocks off the ethereal armor. Sythis then attacks, hitting Sephara for 1 more commander damage, bringing them down to 23 and up to 10 commander. Sythis then receives another land. Flickering Ward is then returned to the hand during the second main phase, and then recast for more triggers off the Harvest Hand. When it comes into play, the Harvest Hand will gain protection from black. They then cast Overgrowth for more mana production on another land. All That Glitters follows, and Sythis becomes a 7/8. Solitary Confinement hits the stack, and I begin to run out options against the Harvest Hand. Arcbond appears during my turn, and I figure at least I have a kind of wipe. I crack a blood token, discarding Atherborn, and receive Terror of the Peaks and Temple of the False God. I play the Temple, and then recast Anje from the command zone, gaining another blood token. Moving to attacks, I swing the Wormcoil Engine at Sephara, hitting them for 6 but gaining 12. I pass. Sephara's turn sees Path to Exile on the Harvest Hand, and she goes down. Marble Diamond follows. Sephara then attacks, with both angels coming at my face, and I take 8, going down to 45. Sythis' turn sees the first trigger of Confinement, and they discard a Plains. Then during their first main phase, they cast Transcendent Envoy, Heliod's Pilgrim, which retrieves a Hyena Umbra, which they then cast, giving the Harvest Hand Totem Armor. Sephara decides at this point to draw a card from the triggering of the eye and paying the 1. Angelic Gift is then blessed to the Harvest Hand, giving it flying. Season of Growth then comes down, increasing the card draw potential for the deck. Speaking of card draw, Sage's Reverie is next to the stack, and once on the battlefield draws them 3 cards in addition to all the other cards drawn for the turn. Command Tower then gets dropped, and the Harvest Hand passes. At the end of turn, I crack a blood token and get Butcher of Malakir and a Mountain. My turn gives up a Blasphemous Act. I play a Mountain and contemplate wiping the board, but decide to pass on it. Instead, I cast Meteor Golem, destroying the confinement so I can deal damage. I attack the Harvest Hand with Wormcoil Engine and the Lifelink token, and Sephara with the Blight Priest. The Harvest Hand intercepts the token with their commander, and Heliod's Pilgrim confronts the engine. In response to blocks, I sacrifice the token to drain the table for 2 and gain 4, with Anje's ability. Sephara goes down to 13, and the Harvest Hand ends up at 35. Sephara plays another Plains, and then casts Spirit Bonds. Sarah Ascendant enters the battlefield, and Spirit Bonds triggers. They pay the 1 to create the 1/1 Flying Spirit. Hushbringer then hits the stack, and Terra doesn't look so good. The commander is then cast, making their other flying creatures indestructible, and they pass. The Harvest Hand then begins a very long main phase 1 by casting Core Spirit Dancer, Unquestioned Authority, enchanting their commander, Bear Umbra to their commander, 3 Dreams retrieving Reprobation, Heliod's Punishment, and Ethereal Armor. A Giant's Chosen then gets cast, followed by Fertile Ground, which triggers a Giant's Chosen. Imperial Armor then comes down to enchant their commander, Stolen Grove hits the field. All of these things triggering Sythis, Core Spirit Dancer, Season of Growth every time they are available. They then go to attacks, and attack Sephara for 25 commander damage, finishing them off. With all of their lands untapped for the second main, they begin casting more spells. Mirari's Wake comes down, a Giant's Chosen triggers, making a token, triggering Season of Growth. Reprobation hits the stack, and enchants Wormcoil Engine, making it a coward. Heliod's Punishment then comes down to chain Anje. The Harvest Hand, Chosen, and Season keep triggering. Privileged Position then hits the stack, followed by Seal of Cleansing. The seal is then used to cleanse my archive away. Seal of Primordium follows, Arbor Elf comes down, and the Harvest Hand is done. They pass. Finally to my turn, I get a Nighthawk Scavenger. I cast it, then I cast Blasphemous Act, holding priority and casting Arcbond, targeting the Nighthawk, counting on its life gain and death touch to get around some of the totem armor. Unfortunately, after the last turn, I'd forgotten about the Unquestioned Authority giving pro creatures to their commander, and it does absolutely nothing. I do gain 13 life going to 77, and Sythis goes down to 33. On the Harvest Hand's turn, they go straight to attacks without flexing for another 30 minutes, which I can appreciate. I go down and lose the game with 24 commander damage. Good game to our opponents. As this is the 3rd video in the series, there's a link for this deck list in the description below if you want to take a look. Until next time, stay safe out there.